So this morning I wanted to talk quickly about a concept called AJAX. Now, AJAX stands for asynchronous JavaScript and XML, but it's something that you may not use strictly. Like you may strictly not use the concept of AJAX, like the actual technology AJAX, but the concept of AJAX is something that you're going to continue to use over and over. So here I'm on YouTube.com, and YouTube.com is they spent hundreds of millions of dollars into like maintaining this website and to make it better and better. But one thing that I particularly like about this website is that if I scroll down all the way to the bottom, let's say nothing really interests me here, I don't really want to know about AdWords or recently uploaded or painting or something like that. If I reach all the way to the bottom here, you can kind of see, we'll scroll all the way down to the bottom. I'm not interested in any of these things. I get all the way to the bottom, this little circle down here, it automatically makes a request in the background and automatically pulls out more things onto the, it pours out more things onto my page. So I have what's called an infinite scroll. And this makes my life a lot better as a user. Like it's something that I enjoy doing. Like I will never run out of things to ever watch or ever look at on your Facebook page. Sometimes if it's late at nighttime, you're scrolling through your Facebook and you go all the way to the bottom, you realize that there's an endless amount of stuff that you can read about other people's lives. Or in this case, an endless number of things that you can do video-wise. So what's going on down here with this? Oh, it stopped. Okay, I guess it stops at a certain point.
Some sort of limit because it's got those headings, live gaming.
Yeah, it's possible. Yeah. And popular with gamers, top stories, and things like that. At one point, it's going to, maybe it'll run out, but the concept remains the same. Something is happening in the background. I've never actually refreshed this page, but something's happening in the background asynchronously, and then it's loading up more things onto this page. What does asynchronous mean? Does anyone know?
Out of time.
Out of time? What else? Alex? Mickey?
Not in time order. Yes,
it's pretty much it. So synchronous means like synchronized swimming, like everyone's doing the same thing at one point. It's like it's following like a linear progression, but asynchronous means it's not happening necessarily in that time order. That's what's happening right here. If I refresh this page and I go all the way down to the bottom, like it's happening in the background. So like this request to YouTube to get me more videos is happening in the background. And then once it's finished, I'll push it back out to the screen. So that's the concept that we're going to be dealing with today, which is AJAX. Something's going to happen in the background of our website, and then we're going to get some sort of data back, and we'll do something with that data. So first things first, I'm going to create a folder called AJAX. I'm going to cd into AJAX. I'm going to open this all up in Sublime. Now with jQuery, we can with jQuery and AJAX, we can make calls to our web servers to do two things. One thing we can do is we can get data and display it on our page. And we saw that with our YouTube.com. Like we were making when we scroll down to the bottom, jQuery was making an AJAX request. It might be AJAX, it might be fetch or some other version of it, but it's essentially an AJAX request. Where I scroll down to the bottom, jQuery recognizes I'm all the way at the bottom of the page and makes an AJAX request to get me more stuff, to get me more videos. That's one thing we can do. We can make GET requests via AJAX. The second thing we can do is we can post data. So if you've ever gone to like a website, you filled out a form, you press submit, and then it actually didn't like refresh the page. You didn't see the little spinner going, but it said like your stuff has been submitted or something like that. It's happening in the background. It's bundling all of that together using AJAX to shove it back out to your web application, whatever's taking in your stuff.
Is it said like when you pay the credit card and you submit it and then get open?
Yeah, that's definitely a possibility. I've seen both, right? Some of them, it could be, right? So some of the credit card websites, it's like place the order and it spins and spins and spins, and then it brings you to a new page. That's not an asynchronous request. But I've also seen the ones where it's like enter your credit card information, and then they do a bunch of like checks to make sure that it works, and then it never refreshes the page. That would be an AJAX request. You can tell if it's an AJAX request because your page doesn't refresh. It's happening at the same time. in the background. No, it's happening in the background. That's what it is.
Why does that require AJAX?
What's that?
Why does that require AJAX?
Some. I mean, most credit card payments that I've seen are not AJAX requests. But Mickey was asking about it. I'm like, I'm sure they do exist. I may have seen it at one point where your page didn't refresh. But yeah. So again, we can do two things with these AJAX requests. The first thing we can do is we can make a GET request, meaning like just give me this data. Like I get to the bottom of my YouTube page and I just want more video. So go make that request to the server, give me more stuff, and then put it out on the page. And the other one is going to be a post request. Post is for destructive things where we're changing data somewhere on the server. And generally, something you want to remember is that AJAX and fetch and things like that generally doesn't work across domains. So it's like if you have a website called like yoursite.com, you're probably not going to be able to make an AJAX request to mysite.com. If I'm on youtube.com and I ask youtube.com, like, get me more videos, that's totally fine because we're on the same domain. But cross-site, so like going from one domain to another domain is generally speaking a no-no. So I'm going to create two files real quick. First one, I'll just call like ajax.html. And I will create a head. And then I'll create a body of some sort. Now remember, the head is all those like keywords, the meta tags and things of that nature, where your CSS comes in, your application.json, JavaScript or something, all the things that your HTML document needs to know before you get started. So for us, I'm just going to bring in the jQuery library. And then I'm going to bring in another, maybe another source. So I'm bringing in jQuery, and then I'm going to bring in my own JavaScript file as well. I'll call it ajax.js. And then this body here is what shows up on the page. I'm just going to have a div, an ID of response data, and then close it off. Pretty simple. Again, I have a head which says like all the more or less the things I need to know ahead of time. So I know that I'm going to need to bring in jQuery, and I know I'm going to need to bring in this JavaScript file. And then inside the body is what shows up actually on the page. Maybe I'll give it a title too. The title tag, the HTML title tag, goes inside the head, and it's basically like what shows up at the very top of your screen of your internet browser. So I'll just call this Peter Badal. And if I open this up, open this in the browser, I have this file right here. And the title right there, like I said, is just whatever I typed in. And for us, it was Peter Badal. Let's clean up a few things. What's that?
A good tab. You might want to leave that
No, I'll keep it open. How's that? Clean up a few things. Keep this here. Minimize this. Okay, so I got my three windows. I got my iTerm, I got my Sublime, and I have Peter Badal right here. There's nothing on the page quite yet. We're going to go back in, and we said we were going to bring in a file called, this is strange, what's going on here? Subble AJAX. Sorry, I was working on this last night too. And title is Peter and Mickey. If all goes well, have an empty HTML document called Peter and Mickey, and we'll just move this back over here. Sorry about going back and forth. Okay, so we have we have this HTML document head with the title of Peter and Mickey. I'm bringing in jQuery, and I'm also bringing in my own JavaScript file. If you take a look here on the side, I don't have that JavaScript file quite yet. I'm going to create a application.js file. Application.js. I'm going to split the screen in two just to keep things a little bit easier for us so that we can see it a little better. I'm going to create an AJAX request, and then it's going to reach out to some website and then put it inside of response data right here. So I'm going to call $function.
Read the blue.
Better? Yeah. Okay. All right. So let's see. Let's just make sure that this works.
Yes, function.
Function. Thank you. All right. So let's see if this works. It hopefully does. Let's find out. So I will admit ahead of time that this this website that I am getting this data from is called JSONIP.com, which basically just returns you a JSON object. A lot of the things are going to have left propaganda coming back. It's of no fault to. We don't stand behind one way or the other. It's just this was the fastest one to get something back in terms of just JSON object back. So let's see if this works. And what we have here is it basically makes a request out in the background, gets the entire response coming back, and just shoves it out on the page. Let's take a close look at what we just did. So again, we covered what the HTML document has, and before we did anything, it was just an empty body. There was absolutely nothing inside of there. On the right side, however, we have this application.js file, which is found here on line 4. And what's happening is whenever the page loads, I'm going to have a function that's going to fire off. And there's a getJSON function. Again, this is getJSON, AJAX, fetch, like they all do more or less the same thing. So this is saying, using jQuery, that's the $, I'm going to get JSON from this particular URL. When I get a response back, I want you to do this particular function. So I get a response back after the JSON. I'm going to find the ID of response data, and I'm going to change the HTML of that to the JSON stringified version of that response. Again, I'm making a request using getJSON to JSONIP. It's going to give me some sort of response. That response, I'm going to stringify using the JSON.stringify response and shove it in wherever this response data is.
You don't have to use document ready?
You do not. So as of right now, this is what it looks like. And it's, for us as developers, we can kind of see this and we see, oh, it looks a little bit like a JavaScript object, looks a little bit like a Ruby hash, and we can read this pretty easily. For regular people off the street, they won't be able to read this. They're going to be a little bit confused of why that's happening. So we'll change it up a little bit. We'll just change this body, instead of being one giant div, we'll make it a UL, equals response data. What does UL stand for? The unordered list. Very good. And now I'm going to change a few things with this because I don't think this makes a difference right now. So I want to make a request out to JSON IP. I'm going to get all this data back. I'm going to shove every single like key value pair in its own individual bullet point. So I'm going to get a response back from the JSON, the get JSON right here. And I'm going to iterate over each of them. Let's see if this works before I tell you what I did. Okay. So I went from what it was before, which was just a giant JSON object, into a bullet point of the important data within those JSON objects. And I'll kind of go over the code that we have to make that happen. So again, basic HTML right here, a bunch of stuff inside the head. I have the title of Peter and Mickey. So if you take a look up top, there's where that Peter and Mickey come from. I'm bringing in jQuery because I know I'm going to need it because I have all these $ and that's a clear indication I'm using jQuery. I'm bringing in application.js because I have some custom JavaScript that I want to run. And then I have a body with just an unordered list with nothing inside of it. There's no data in here quite yet. On the JSON side, when the document loads, I'm going to run this function. This function says I'm going to make a JSON request or an AJAX request or a fetch request. Like in the background, I'm going to say make a request to give me some sort of information from a site. I'm going to make a request to this particular website, get a response back, and that response is going to consist of many different key and value pairs, right? There was like the IP address and the URL and things of that nature. I'm going to iterate over each one of those, and I'm going to set it equal to like I an item. So this is like the Ruby's each with index method. Inside of response data, I'm going to append a list object, so just an empty li plus the item plus a closing li. So this is basically adding on a bunch of li's onto here. So like li something, and then close it, and then it's going to iterate over every single one of those and then automatically append it on there. That's why we have like 4 things here. So if I were to refresh this page, I would have something, 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 and then all of these show up.
2 questions on the coding side. Why didn't you need document already?
I believe this is shorthand for it.
Oh. Okay.
So you spell your functions in that bracket?
Mm-hmm.
Or the outer bracket, I mean.
Yeah.
I thought that was just the $, was just short.
It's just for it is just for, it's saying jQuery, but I think that by having the first thing here as being a function, I don't think you need document ready. I think that it's automatically implied. It does not hurt to go with document.ready. That being said,
the second thing is the $.each.
Mm-hmm.
So get JSON, I would think it returns an array and passes it to response.
Let's find out. So let's take a look at what. So I'm going to make a request to get to JSON IP, and then I'm going to get a response back, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's just console log what the response looks like, and not do anything else. So I inspect here, look inside the console, and I refresh this page. Actually, I don't get an array back. I get a hash of stuff back, like a JavaScript object that comes back, and that's where this. And that's where this .each comes from. Because I have that hash, it's coming back as a hash, I can iterate over each one of these things.
But you need to make it a jQuery.
I do not, because the response that comes back is a JavaScript object.
Okay, oh, so it's just a function on
Yep.
jQuery.
Mhm. So this .each is a jQuery. It's kind of like array.each or hash.each, like inside of Ruby. This $ is jQuery.each, saying I'm going to iterate over the entire response. I'm going to have a like I think this is key and value. I'm just going to append the value.
You could just run any JavaScript over an object. I forget what it is, like 4 keys. What is the?
Yes, you could do like 4 keys and for blah in blah. Yeah. But yeah, you can. We're just using jQuery for this one. But yes, you could use pure JavaScript for this as well. Let's just verify that this does exactly the same thing. All right, so here we have it. It iterates over the entire response, and we get 1, 2, 3, 4 things. Again, I was looking for other JSON things that like showed up that would just give me key value pairs back. But this was the one that was the fastest. I tried one with. There's one called the Star Wars API. So Star Wars Swappy.co. Star Wars API. Oh, that's loading. I will. Basically, what happens is I can't do cross-site scripting, so I can't make a request from my URL to some other URL. So it's preventing me from doing that. So this particular API did not allow me to go between my site and their site. Like it says, you're not allowed to do that. This JSON IP left site is they were totally okay with that. But yeah, this is kind of fun. If you ever want like JSON stuff coming back, you can do like people / maybe like let's do planet/50, and this is all related to like the Star Wars universe. So I am not that familiar with Star Wars, so I don't know what any of this is, but maybe I'll know something like people 5.
I don't think there's 50 planets in Star Wars.
I'm sure there's many more. We'll find out. We'll just say how many people are in the 501 people. There's not that many 404 error because there's not somebody with the ID of 501 inside the database. It's 350. Nope, still.
Clone 1 through a million.
You could, yeah. Maybe just 50. Wow. 25? Okay. So Lando Calrissian.
Status. Nope.
Cool. All right. So as I mentioned earlier, get JSON. Like you may not ever use AJAX as like a strict technology. Like your boss may not say like using AJAX make a request to some site in the background and then get me some sort of response. But the concept of AJAX is going to remain throughout. So it's kind of saying I've loaded my web page, it's fully loaded, but I can make a request to another website in the background while this is all happening. Get JSON is one way of doing it. We're just going to switch over to like the actual formal AJAX. So we'll do AJAX and.
So AJAX takes the place of JSON?
Yeah, so get JSON is a simpler form of the full AJAX call. So this is just like a shorthand version of AJAX.
It's written in jQuery.
So AJAX is more complicated?
AJAX is a little bit more complicated, and it's a little bit more robust, and we'll see that right here. So for the sake of time, I'm not going to type it all out. I'm just going to copy and paste it from the curriculum for today. Looks a little bit more challenging, but it's essentially the same thing. So I have a function that's going to load up when the page is ready. I'm making an AJAX request to https jsonip.com. If the request is successful, and I get like a 200 back, remember those HTTP codes, you go to a bar, 200 is yes, 300 is let me redirect you to my friend, 400 is no, and 500 is bad sushi. So if I get a 200 request back, then this will kick off, saying like, I'm going to iterate over each one of them, I'm going to find address and append the list item. If all goes well, and I just change this, then I should have something on the page that looks identical to this. And I refresh, and something went horribly wrong because Nothing happened here. Let's inspect the element. Go to console. There's no errors here. Huh. I will tell you that there is one small thing broken inside of this code that I copied and pasted. And I'm going to see who can figure out what that thing is.
Brackets messed up. They look confusing.
Nothing about the brackets. This works, all of this remains more or less the same, but there is something broken. I will give you a hint in these 4 lines that is allowing me not to have anything show up on the page. Pardon? The address on line 5. What is
It should be.
mhm. Yep. So yeah, so I just messed, like I'm just messing with people. I put it in your curriculum just to see who could pick it up. But yeah, I changed the ID of address of response data to address, and you can see address doesn't live here anywhere inside the HTML document. There's no ID of address, so it doesn't have anywhere to go. I go back here and refresh. There we go. We have all the same things as before. So the only thing that we've really changed here from what it was before, let me just copy this. The difference between this and this is an additional added success callback, meaning that if it was successful, do something. If it's not successful, do something else, because this one automatically assumes that it's going to be successful every single time, which you don't necessarily want on your website. If somebody enters a wrong social security number with like 25 digits or something like that, you don't want that to go. You don't want them to go unnoticed. That you want to give them as much feedback as you can. So let's figure out how do we do this next little portion. Like how do we, let's say that something went wrong and we want to tell that person something went wrong. I'm just going to have a little error callback now. So I'm going to have a function. I'm going to get a request, error type, and error message.
Oh, just like an alert?
Yes, something like an alert.
Let's say.
Alert, maybe error plus error type plus message.
Has to be a JSON format too.
Nope, this is just a text thing coming back.
I mean the AJAX. Cool.
The AJAX
Request to the site has to be in JSON.
each website is going to ask for different things, but most of the time it's in JSON. So all I've added here that's a little bit different is I've added an error callback. So this was the success callback, meaning if once I make the request to JSON IP, if it's successful, do this. If it blows up, then do this. When something blows up and you don't get a successful message back, you're going to get all of these things for free. The request is going to come first. It's like, what did I send over? And it's going to come back with an error type, like what went wrong. Like the server will tell you what went wrong, and then as well as an error message if it's there. So let me run this file, and I'm refreshing, and everything is going really well every single time. So I'm actually never going to hit this error message because this is a perfectly good website right now. If I do not a website.com, definitely not. Hello, Deja and Alex. Like, this is definitely not a website, right? If this is a website, then something is very, very strange. So I'm making a request to a website. If I get a successful message back, then I will do all of this stuff. If I don't get a successful message back, then this is something that's going to happen. And because I'm making a request to a website that does not exist, I should hit this error message right here. So if I refresh, bam, there's a little something that tells me that something is wrong. It says error with message, something. So it just lets me know that something blew up. Or you could just be as simple as something went wrong. Refresh the page, something went wrong. You could say that as well. All right, so we'll go back to the way things were. Are there any questions on the AJAX syntax so far or anything that we've written yet.
Kind of see the structure, but I don't really see much about the benefit of using it. Like
Mhm.
I know you shown the YouTube thing, but I mean, what can we use it besides like loading stuff on the back end? Because we can put everything on the server. Right?
How many of us have ever used Twitter? How many of us have ever used Facebook? How many of us have ever used YouTube? How many of us have ever used, I don't know, a million other websites?
Yeah.
You don't expect to see the web page refresh all the resources every time you go to that website. You have to like click a button, and refresh the entire site. Not only is it annoying, but it's expensive to the server to ask every 5 seconds if something's changed. Instead, you have little tiny pieces of the website changing for the user at all times, so that you're not asking for the same image 100 times. You're only asking for whatever needs to be changed at that moment.
Go ahead.
Sure, when you say it's expensive for the server, meaning it's using more our resources and
Right. It's the same as like if you were sitting at a desk and 20 people were asking the same question, then the person who actually needs one question answered that they haven't asked before, they don't get to answer their question, right? They don't get their question answered because there's 20 people always asking the same questions. The same thing happens on the internet, right? Like if everybody goes to YouTube every 5 seconds to ask for the newest stuff all the time, the server can't do all that work, right? And why do you need this picture? I just gave it to you, right? So YouTube's like, don't ask me for this picture 100 times. If you need a new video and you scroll to the end of the page, you need a new set of videos, I'll give you that because that's new information, right? You don't have to come at me for everything all the time because that button's going to be the same the whole time. The upload button, this banner is going to be the same.
the alternative is to like where on the bottom of the page it'll have different pages and you click on page 2, on page 3.
So when you click a button, right, like page 2 is a whole different document that the server is going to go and get for you, right? It's not currently shown on the page. That makes sense. But if you're at the bottom of a page and you just want to see more, that's basically just loading that one piece more. I don't have to refresh everything about that page and reserve it to you if you already have it and it doesn't need to be changed.
So it's like I made a
Why doesn't
request.
Google have
Wait,
the same
so-
principle?
Everything
Google-
does pieces like that.
When you Google something, when you Google something, you don't get that kind of infinite scroll. You have pages.
Mhm.
Why wouldn't they just use the infinite scroll?
I don't
Business
I don't
decision?
know. That's something you might want to ask Brian this afternoon. He might have a better insight of it. My thought is because people pay a certain amount to Google
Yeah.
to be on, like, I want to be on the front page, right? And there's something called SEO, which stands for search engine optimization, which is like a brand new thing in digital marketing, which is basically I want to make sure my website shows up at the top of Google search, like Google search. Like if you're looking at personal loans, right? If I Google personal loans, I guarantee you they're going to be Avant Credit, like probably Springleaf Financial or One Main Financial. Let's just try it out. Personal loans. I don't know. So personal loans, right? We have things like Lending Club and Credit Karma and Avant, Lending Tree, Rocket Loans, Wells Fargo. I guess we're not on here. But there is a specific way that Google will know that like Credit Karma is supposed to show up. Like there's all these keywords. If I go to creditkarma.com and I right click here and I take inspect element, if you take a look inside the head, this is all that data that your browser is sending over. Where's this head? You see all this meta stuff right here? Like this is a meta description, offers free credit scores, reports, and insights, gets the info that you need. There are keywords of personal loans, personal loan rates, personal loan interest rates, best personal loans, personal loan refinance. Like there's a whole other business going on underneath the hood when you create a website that basically allows Google to like get a hold of your website and know what your website is about, and then they index it for you.
Okay, so Google searches are going through the head
Mm-hmm.
website.
Exactly. Yeah.
Metadata. And
Yeah. This is all that metadata that we're talking about. Like a lot of this, I don't even know what it does. Like this is what for the marketing team to tell us what to do. and then they'll say like, hey, can you put this as a meta tag in the head? Sure, no problem. We're just going to put it in. But to answer your question, Peter, I really don't know what the answer is for.
I think that makes sense.
Yeah, it's probably something around being it's something about money, right? So it's like Credit Karma is the first on Google, so they have to pay Google X amount of dollars to be on the front page every single month.
Yeah.
So that's my guess. I don't know for certain.
What about like YouTube? Like instead of why don't they like build a web page like the whole wheel, like the up to the end?
Yeah. So it's kind of like saying it would be the equivalent of me teaching everything I want to teach for Code Platoon, because in reality I only teach for like an hour and a half, like lecture-wise per day, right? Most like an hour and a half. So it's kind of like, hey, Nikki, I want you to sit here for the next like 3 days while I tell you everything. So the idea is like, I'm not going to give you more than you need. So you asked the question of like, why doesn't it just load up like everything all at one time? It's because it's very, very expensive to say, I'm going to get every single possible resource, like all my images, all of my links, and build out all of this in the background and then pour it all out on the screen and then have like one giant thing. It's like sitting in class for 4 days. I can teach you everything in 4 days. You're not going to understand a single thing, you kind of get it as you need it. So what Kara was saying a little bit earlier with this YouTube.com thing, I loaded it once. This is making a request to the YouTube server somewhere in Northern California, and it's coming back to my computer right here. So it's made a request. And all of this stuff is loaded on my browser. So I'm no longer connected to YouTube servers right now. This is just living here in my YouTube.com on my Firefox. It went somewhere to go get this image. It went somewhere to go get this video. It went somewhere to give me like the top 4 recommended things and all of this data that came along with it. So you said, why doesn't it just make a new request every single time? Like if I wanted to get more videos, why don't I just click more videos and then it loads up the page one more time with everything? It's because a lot of resources and a lot of money were spent, not a ton of money, but it was like someone still has to pay for this, right? So it costs money for YouTube to have all of these images and like all these databases and take in all the requests from like tens of millions of people a second.
Another way to think about it,
Please.
is like, when you have your cell phone and you only have so much data, where you have to start paying money for your data. Makes sense. So when you load a web page on your phone, it costs you like whatever a gigabyte or a kilobyte to download all that stuff for that page to load, right? So imagine if you had to keep downloading YouTube every time, you would use up all your data and you'd be really mad, right? So YouTube is like, well, I don't want to take up all your data. I'll just give you the pieces that you need in order to run the site. It's less data for you, so it's less expensive for you, and you're getting what you need instead of the entire, collection of all my stuff. Just to get one video, for example, you don't want all the billion videos that YouTube has. You just want the one, maybe the most important one or the latest one, right? So that's kind of where, on both sides, you're getting a benefit when you're using AJAX. It's the same thing that happens on Twitter, right? Like, you want to be able to see the latest. You don't want to see, like, a historical list of all quadrillion tweets that ever happened at once. It's too much to read. I just want to see the top 50 that just happened right now. So you just get the top. And then if you're like, I read all 50, that was great. You can keep scrolling and get more of that information.
One more thing, Nikki, it's kind of like if you're using YouTube on your phone, you can actually scroll, you can drag your your video down to the corner and do stuff in the background, right? So I'm not sure if that's AJAX, but it follows the concept of AJAX, where it's like one thing is running in the background, your video is still running, but in the background I can make other requests and scroll up and look at other things in the background.
But then now, let's say if everyone open the YouTube, right? So everyone gonna see the same page, right? Right? And
well, there's going to be different content per person based on what you subscribe to. But yes, essentially, if you didn't subscribe, so Code Platoon does not subscribe to anything.
And how often they actually update? Like, let's say this one, if you don't do anything, how often they actually update like the whole, like how often they're gonna
This is an ad. So the NBA is paying YouTube a ton of money right now to basically have this on for all of today, because tonight is the start of the NBA season. So I'm guessing if people go to YouTube, it might be on the top for you as well. So it's like every YouTube user for this day, we'll pay you $500,000 or something like that. Probably not that much, but we'll pay you X. Actually, it's probably more than that. For like 10 or 20 million. I don't know. Easily.
More than 500,000. Pretty sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure what the question was.
Yeah, I mean, like every time when you get like a AJAX or something like loading back in, the information that come to like the main like the front end is gonna like change every time. Like, is it gonna be the same information that they send to, or it's gonna be like?
Oh no, I mean it's gonna be for you, right? So I scroll all the way down to the bottom. This little thing goes off, and then there's other material that may be more relevant for me. I'm not sure. I'm not positive. It's like if you're gonna see Ann Osborne on your computer. Or,
I think those are there because I watched a video logged in once
okay.
about like this paint technique, and now it's like this saved in history.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know.
I was like, why is painting in code Platoon?
Do you think is it the same thing with the maps then? When you use
Yes.
Google Maps?
That's a great example.
I don't understand.
Maps are loaded as one tile. Okay? Maps are loaded, that's a great example actually. Maps are loaded as one tile. You see one image. And then if you're like, I want to zoom out or I want to see what's on the next block, scroll over, it's loading the images to the sides. Okay, so it's not going to load everything for the whole world, all the maps. It only loads whatever you need to see at the moment. And then if you start scrolling to the left and the right and whatnot, it starts loading more information as needed. You don't have to refresh the whole page to get that information. It's just saying, if you ask for it, I'll give it to you.
That's an AJAX.
That's an AJAX request that's being made.
And when they load on this one, right? When they zoom in, is that actually the new image or is like the same image that?
I don't know if it's I'm pretty sure I would say that it's a new image, but it might be the same image. But what is being loaded in is more detailed information. Those little buttons of like brown dots that tell us more specifically what's going on in this one specific scope of the map, that's all being loaded extra when you zoom further in and zoom further out. This is actually, so I don't know if y'all remember back in the day when you used to use maps, like MapQuest, right? MapQuest was like one picture. And you'll see this too when you like leave the city and you don't have that much internet and you're trying to look at a map and it doesn't let you see anything around you because it's trying to go get more image and it can't. So it's like, this is all you can see because this is all we loaded for you, we're sorry. Okay, and that's also why Google Maps created the feature of you saying like, I want my maps offline, so I need to download the entire surrounding area that you might eventually need so that you're prepared for when that happens. But otherwise, it gets it as it needs it because maps are very, very heavy resource, right? Pictures are really heavy amount of detailed information. So it's not going to give you more than you need because it'll just weigh down your browser or your phone, right, with too much data that you didn't use. So instead of not using it, just give you what you need at the time.
And you think like, let's say one small bottom, right? They say like that like consider as I know like one value or one like when they.
That would probably be like an object, like a JSON object that has like what type of business it is, so you know what color the little dot should be. The picture that would show up when you hovered over it, the review information, and address, so that when it opens, it gets that more information for you. So that's the kind of like, basically Google's like, go get this information. They're looking more deep, right? So the AJAX call is happening to get that information given to you when it's needed, not just in general, because that's too much information.
Yeah. So it's like when I hover, I'm guessing, when I hover over internal income or something like that, there's a jQuery thing that's saying like when someone hovers over this particular thing, make a request in the background and give me just an idea of what it is. Maybe there's a street view picture of it and how many reviews they have. Or when I go to Hana Sushi and Chinese and Thai restaurant, like that's another request that's happening in the background. That's an example of like where AJAX is powerful.
Can you show us that code?
I have no idea. Maybe. I can't right click anywhere.
You can, yeah.
Yeah, developer mode.
Google Maps.
I don't know. We'll find out. Oh God.
So many errors. Yeah, it might be too minified to like see all the functionality and stuff.
I don't know. I just don't know.
But if you read, like, you can eventually you'll have time to look at like a Google Maps API and have more detailed understanding of that, how that works. But for the most part, that's a really good example of like why AJAX is useful, right? It's people don't need everything all at once. When you just need a little bit at a time, then AJAX is going to help you make that happen.
All right, so we got two more things to cover when it comes to AJAX. The first one is, so I've copied and pasted a bunch of data, a bunch of code from the curriculum for today, and I just overwrote it right here. So everything up to this point is exactly what we've seen before. I'm going to change address to response data because we just want to make sure everything works. And I've added a few extra fields right here. So it's saying that I'm adding a timeout, meaning if I make a request to JSON IP and it takes longer than 2,000 milliseconds, which is 2 seconds, then I'll stop it right there. Before I send it, I'm going to basically append something called loading onto the page, and then once it's finished, I'm going to remove all H4s. So let's kind of see what this looks like in action. If I refresh this page, nothing happens. Like, where is this loading? And I'm not seeing it. And that's because if you take a look inside the body here, there's no ID called loading ever. So what I will do is I'll create maybe a div with an ID of loading. And then I'll close off this div. So it's just empty, there's nothing inside of it. So before I send the request over, it'll have that like loading page on there. So it's like when you scroll down to the bottom of YouTube or Facebook, there's that little image that kind of keeps going like this. That's just an image, just literally an image that goes in circles. It says, put this out on the screen until we get a response back, then take it away and throw out all of the extra, videos. So I scroll down to the bottom. This little thing goes on. That's just an image. It's literally just a picture that goes around in circles, saying like something is happening. It's giving your users some sort of feedback. Something's happening in the background. And when it's finished, then I load up all this extra stuff. If I go all the way down again, there's that picture one more time. It's making requests in the background, comes back, and everything is here. But I'm still a little annoyed of why this is not working for me. So I added that that little loading thing so it gives me some sort of feedback. If I refresh this page, it'll be quick. So take a quick look up here. Boom. So you saw that right in the background. There's that little loading thing. It's really, really fast. And what I can do is I can slow down my network connection. Where is it? Oh, no. That's not what I wanted. I want this to come over. I'm going to say I'm going to be slow 3G. So I can mimic slow 3G. I'm going to refresh this page. And you can kind of see it. Slow 3G. It's going to be loading. And then it took longer than 2 seconds. So they said there was a timeout. I can change this network speed again to, let's say, fast 3G, which will still take enough time. Let me refresh this page. Loading, loading, loading. And then something. And then it disappeared. And then all my material came out on the screen. Any questions thus far? All we've been doing so far is just getting a bunch of data. So I have this pretty basic HTML document right here. And then in the background, I am making AJAX requests to JSON IP. Like I have a before send. Like before I send it over, throw this, append an H4 that says loading on there, and once it's finished, remove that H4 and then do this as well. Last little bit. So we've been learning how to get data, like we're making a request saying like, give me stuff. But in reality, sometimes you're also going to need to post data, like say I need to send information over. So first things first, I'm going to go to this website called putsrequest.com, putsrec.com, and basically allows you to record HTTP requests and fake out responses. So it's like it's listening for you to send stuff over. So I'm going to create a quick bucket. And this is the URL that I'm going to make a request to. And I'm going to create a new response to come back. I will just copy and paste it over from what we had. So the status I'm going to send back is 200. I'm going to set the content type to application JSON, and I'm just going to say the message was okay. This is what I'm sending back. Whenever you send me something, I will send this particular thing back. I'm going to
update the copy of the site.
Pardon? We do, yeah. I'm going to change a few things right now. So first things first, just for time's sake, I'm going to get rid of this altogether and just copy and paste this in. So what I've got here is I've got a form. It has an ID of comment form, and it's going to have a text box that wants you to have comment there, and then a submit button, and then this empty div called comment status. We're going to figure out what we're going to do with that pretty soon. And just to be fast, I'm going to copy and paste this whole thing again. So let's go kind of line by line and see what we've got here. So I've got a function whenever the page is ready. Whenever somebody submits anything on the comment form right here, when you submit it, I'm going to serialize whatever you typed in. So I'm going to grab whatever you typed in, I'm going to serialize it, meaning I'm going to get it ready to send it over to the URL. I'm going to stop whatever's happening, the default action from happening, and then I'm going to basically switch the I'm going to switch it to a default gray so that you know not to type there anymore, because it's you've been to those like websites where it's like, please don't type in here. It's like, or after you submit it, it's like, don't hit back, and like everything kind of blurs out for a little bit while it's sending things. And I'm going to change the text of the button from submit comment. It's from submit comment to sending. So it gives you some more feedback. At that point, I'm going to be making an AJAX request, post AJAX request to whatever URL. You're going to have to put your URL here. The data I'm sending over is form data found on line 3. So whatever I typed in, I'm serializing. I'm sending over text. I'm going across domains, meaning I'm going from mysite.com to yoursite.com. When it's finished, I'm going to remove the attribute of disabled down on line 5. If there's an error, I will let you know. And if it's successful, I will say that the comment was sent successfully, and then it'll allow you to submit something new. All that to say, it essentially just does this. All right, so right now I have 0 requests coming in. I'm going to change my statuses, my responses one more time. And I need this particular URL inside of my code. So my URL goes here. I've got this here. Refresh the page, and all I've got is a simple form. It just says submit comment with an empty box. So I will type in spoons, and I hit submit comment. And then it says sending, and then comment sent successfully. All right, let's see if the request on the server actually received that. So if I scroll down on this page, it says that 1 request came in, was to this particular bucket. And it says new request found, load new request. So I'm going to load it up. And this is the request that was sent 17 seconds ago when I first hit that submit button. Again, what version of like HTTP were we using? 1.1. This was the user agent. I was using a Mac 10.12.6 and I have a encoded form using the character set of UTF-8. The content length of what I sent over was 14 characters long, and this is what was sent over. Comment equals spoons. That's the stuff that I sent over. So all I've done really is I've sent over a request using AJAX. I've posted data to this particular URL using AJAX. Again, I can go back over here and then type in anything I want, submit that comment, and then you can kind of see this automatically updated in the background. This is probably another AJAX request inside of this little icon right here. It says newer requests found. Load those newer requests. Sure. We can kind of see. Here's my comment. Anything I want. Any questions on anything so far? So we covered AJAX. AJAX stands for asynchronous JavaScript in XML, meaning that it's happening in the background. So you use this on an everyday basis when you use something like a Google Maps and you zoom in and out, then there's new businesses and fewer businesses based on how high up you're looking. If you're on Facebook.com or Twitter or YouTube, you scroll all the way to the bottom, it automatically refreshes the page with more stuff for you to read. That's also an AJAX request. So we figured out how to do that. And then now we're posting data as well. And that's this giant section right here. Do you want me to review this whole thing again or no?
Asynchronous.
Is this in the notes?
That's that. Yeah, this is all in the curriculum.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, this is all in the curriculum. So you don't have to memorize or anything like that. This is impossible to memorize. There's no possible way anyone can memorize this.
Usually when you post something like a comment like that, what do you do with the data that has been posted? What can you do with it? Can you comment or what do you do?
So the question was, what can I do when like I post a comment or something like that? So it's, let me see. I don't use Twitter very often, but I use the Code Platoon one. Yeah. So when I do a tweet right here, right? When I click this, it's not opening up a brand new page. Have you realized that? Like, if you see, like, nothing is actually happening. I'm not loading a new page whenever I say tweet. What this is doing is it's loading up a new modal for me called compose new tweet. I'm going to tweet real quick about this thing for Thursday. Having a hard time with coding? Join us on Thursday for this event for Code Brews. I don't know, whatever. This is just for demonstration purposes and also to take one thing off my to-do list a little bit later. So this is an example of a form, right? I'm posting data here. I'm changing something on Twitter's website. So when I hit tweet here, I'm pretty sure I'm not going to refresh the entire page. I think it says like your tweet has been successful or something, like a little green box happens right here. So this is an example of an AJAX request. I'm not refreshing the entire page, but it's happening in the background. So when I hit tweet here, you'll see that my page has actually never moved, but I had that little thing that says like, hey, I acknowledge that you sent me something, and the successful message is your tweet was posted successfully. That's that feedback that's coming back. So yeah, that's a perfect example of AJAX right there.
And then you see the information pushed on to that list. There's this
there it is. Yeah.
Right? Like it went and then it loaded that information to the top of that list without you having to refresh the page.
Yeah. Yeah, so AJAX is really, like, the concept of AJAX is everywhere. Now, you might be using get.json, you might be using AJAX specifically, you might be using fetch, that's another one, but the concept is, like, something has to happen in the background, so I don't have to refresh every single time, because there's some things that we just take for granted, like a tweet, something as simple as a tweet. There's a lot of stuff happening in the background to make that happen.
But how this post get back into the...
Oh, how does it, like, feed into the database? Yeah. So we'll get into that more next week when we start building out those full web applications. But essentially, it's something like this kind of like mimics it, right? So I'm a server. I'm listening for any sort of requests that you're asking me to do. So when I sent stuff over and I said like I want to post to this particular URL with the comment of anything I want, once I get this, I will do stuff with it. Maybe I'll save it into the database and associate it with your particular user. So it's like whenever I look at all my tweets, like the one that I just put up, having a hard time with coding, join us on Thursday for Code Boost, like that's now associated with me. So it's saved inside of a database. So on Twitter's end, once it receives like a new tweet, it associates it with your user, it saves it into the database. And then every single time that you say, look at all my tweets, it'll load up every single tweet that's associated with you. And then SQL goes into the database and says like, give me all the most recent 50 tweets or something like that. Yeah, but we will get to that next week. Cool. Any other questions? All right. We will stop the recording here and kind of get started on today's work.